Hamilton did not just take sprint pole at Silverstone. He dropped a problem into every rival garage. Because this is not about one fast lap, and it is not about a crowd cheering for a home hero. This is about a 7-time world champion putting himself at the front on a circuit that exposes everything: balance, tire confidence, high-speed stability, and raw nerve. And here is the dangerous part. Silverstone is not a place where weak cars can hide for long. If Hamilton is quick here, every team has to ask one terrifying question. Was that just a perfect moment, or has he found something the rest of the grid missed? Because sprint pole gives him the one thing nobody wants to hand Lewis Hamilton at Silverstone. Control. Clean air in front. Track position. Crowd energy. A short sprint format with less time for rivals to recover. And a driver who has built an entire career out of turning pressure into punishment. So now, every team behind him has the same nightmare. Attack too early, and destroy the tires. Wait too long, and Hamilton disappears into the rhythm of the race. But the real reason they are worried is not obvious yet. Because if this sprint pole is not a one-lap surprise, if it is a sign that Hamilton's car is finally alive through Silverstone's fastest corners, then this weekend just became much bigger than a sprint. It became a warning. And by the end, the answer will be clear. This was never just about Hamilton starting first. It was about what every other team suddenly realized they might not be able to stop. Silverstone has a way of telling the truth before anyone is ready to hear it. Some circuits let a team hide. A car can look strong because the straights are long, or because the corners are slow, or because the driver only needs to be good in one part of the lap. At those tracks, a surprise result can be dismissed. Maybe the setup was perfect. Maybe the tires came alive at exactly the right moment. Maybe the conditions made one car look better than it really was. But Silverstone is different. Silverstone asks for everything at once. The car has to be fast, but it also has to be stable. It has to turn sharply, but it cannot feel nervous. It has to protect the tires, but it also has to attack through corners where hesitation costs time instantly. And for the driver, that means trust. Not confidence after the corner is finished. Not confidence when the data looks clean in the garage. Real trust, before the car has fully committed, when the speed is high and the margin feels thin. That is why Hamilton's sprint pole matters so much. Because at Silverstone, a driver does not steal the front by accident. He has to believe the car will hold. He has to feel the grip before anyone watching from the outside can see it. He has to carry speed into places where lifting even slightly can ruin the lap. And when Hamilton does that at Silverstone, every rival team knows the warning is real. The danger is not only that he starts ahead. The danger is what that says about the machine underneath him. A sprint pole suggests the car is giving him something he can use. Balance. Stability. Response. The feeling that when he asks for more, the car does not betray him. For Hamilton, that is everything, because his greatest weapon has never been only aggression. It has been precision under pressure. The ability to find grip, shape a lap, and make a car look calmer than it really is. And that is where the first fear begins inside the other garages. They are not just asking, how did Hamilton do that? They are asking, why did our car not do that? Because Formula One teams do not fear a single headline. They fear a pattern starting before they can stop it. They fear that one lap has revealed a truth their simulations did not fully predict. They fear that Hamilton has found a window, and once a driver like Hamilton finds a window, he does not just step through it. He starts building a race around it. That is what makes this moment uncomfortable. A sprint weekend gives everyone less time to react. There is less room for experiments. Less room to rebuild confidence. Less room to discover the problem, test the solution, and calmly move on. So when Hamilton puts himself at the front early, the pressure becomes immediate. The other teams cannot simply say, we will understand it later. Later might cost them the sprint. Later might cost them the tone of the entire weekend. And the tone matters more than people think. Because once Hamilton is at the front at Silverstone, the whole event starts to feel different. The crowd reacts differently. The cameras follow differently. The drivers behind feel a different kind of pressure. Even the teams that believe they have faster race pace have to treat him like a threat they cannot afford to ignore. This is the first reason every team starts to panic. Not because Hamilton has already won. Because he has forced them to question the one thing they depend on most. Their own certainty. The second layer is where the panic becomes more serious, because sprint pole does not give Hamilton comfort. It gives him control. And control is the one thing every rival team wants to deny him at Silverstone. On a normal weekend, a team can sometimes recover from a difficult moment. They can study the data overnight. They can change the plan. They can wait for the main race to stretch out, then use pit strategy, tire life, or clean air to recover what they lost earlier. But a sprint weekend is not normal. A sprint weekend compresses everything. There is less time to understand the car, less time to correct a mistake, less time for a driver to rebuild confidence if the first signs are bad. And when Hamilton takes sprint pole, he does not just take the first starting position. He takes away time from everyone else. That is what makes it so uncomfortable. Because the teams behind him are now forced to make decisions before they have all the answers. Do they attack him immediately? Do they protect the tires? Do they risk a move into the first few corners, knowing that one small touch could damage the entire weekend? Or do they sit behind him, wait for a better chance, and risk letting Hamilton turn the sprint into his own private rhythm? That is the trap. Attack too soon, and the tires can overheat. Wait too long, and the chance may vanish. And when the driver in front is Lewis Hamilton at Silverstone, that hesitation becomes dangerous. Because Hamilton understands how to lead a race. He understands how to place a car where the driver behind has to think twice. He understands how to make the pace look manageable while still keeping the gap just painful enough. He knows how to protect the tires without looking weak, and he knows how to make a rival burn energy trying to stay close. That is not something every driver can do. Some drivers are fast when they are chasing. Some are fast when they are free. But Hamilton has spent years learning how to turn a lead into pressure for everyone else. He does not need chaos. He does not need a huge gap. Sometimes, all he needs is half a second, clean air, and a rival behind him asking whether the next attack is worth the risk. And this is where clean air becomes a weapon. When Hamilton runs at the front, his car gets the smoothest air. Nothing is disturbing the flow over the wings. The tires are not being punished as heavily by following another car. The driver can choose his line, manage his speed, and control the temperature of the race. Behind him, everything is harder. The car chasing has to fight through disturbed air. It may slide more. The tires may get hotter. The driver has to push harder just to stay close. And every extra push creates another problem, because sprint races do not give much time for recovery. That sounds small, but it is not. At Silverstone, fast corners punish a car that is not perfectly balanced. If a rival sits too close for too long, trying to force Hamilton into a mistake, the tires can begin to suffer. The front may lose bite. The rear may feel nervous. Suddenly, the attacking car is no longer attacking. It is surviving. And Hamilton knows exactly how to create that situation. He can force the driver behind to spend more tire life than he spends himself. He can make the chase feel possible, but never easy. He can keep the door slightly open, then close it before the rival fully commits. That is why teams do not only fear his speed. They fear his race intelligence. Because when Hamilton starts from sprint pole, every team has to prepare for two battles at once. The battle against his car, and the battle against his mind. And that second battle is harder to measure. You can see lap times. You can see tire temperatures. You can see gaps on a timing screen. But you cannot fully measure pressure. You cannot see the moment when a driver behind starts doubting whether the move is worth it. You cannot see the tiny calculation happening inside the helmet, the question that appears for less than a second. Should I risk everything now? That question is exactly what Hamilton wants. Because once a rival starts asking it, Hamilton has already changed the race. And this is why the sprint format makes the panic sharper. There are fewer laps to solve the problem. Fewer chances to reset. Fewer ways to use strategy as a rescue plan. In a full Grand Prix, a team can sometimes let the race come back to them. In a sprint, the race can escape before the plan has even opened. So Hamilton on sprint pole becomes more than a strong qualifying result. It becomes a countdown. Every corner he leads makes the pressure heavier. Every lap he controls makes the chasing teams more desperate. Every time a rival gets close but cannot pass, the whole garage feels the opportunity slipping away. And that is when mistakes begin. A driver brakes a little too late. A team asks too much from the tires. Someone attacks in a place where patience would have been wiser. Someone waits for the perfect moment, and realizes too late that Hamilton has already taken it away. This is the second reason every Formula One team is worried. Hamilton has not just earned the right to start first. He has forced everyone else to race on his terms. And at Silverstone, with less time, less margin, and more pressure than usual, that might be the most dangerous position of all. Now comes the part that makes this bigger than Hamilton, because the reaction is not only happening on track. It is happening inside every garage. When a driver takes sprint pole, people outside the paddock often focus on the obvious picture. The car at the front. The celebration. The headline. The crowd noise. The feeling that one driver has delivered a special moment. But inside Formula One, the reaction is colder. Teams start searching for reasons. They do not just ask who was fastest. They ask why. They break the lap into pieces. They look at where the time came from. They study whether the car was stronger in slow corners, faster through high-speed sections, cleaner on traction, or easier on the tires. And when that driver is Hamilton, at Silverstone, the questions become sharper. Because nobody wants to admit they have been caught by surprise. That is the hidden conflict. Every rival team wants to believe it understands the performance picture. They want to believe their simulations were right. They want to believe their setup direction makes sense. They want to believe their driver has the tools to fight back. But Hamilton on sprint pole creates doubt. And doubt spreads fast. One team may wonder if it chose the wrong balance. Another may question whether it gave up too much stability for straight-line speed. Another may ask whether it protected the tires too much and lost the aggression needed for one lap. Another may look at Hamilton's confidence through the fast corners and realize its own driver never had that same trust. That is a painful realization. Because Silverstone does not only test horsepower or bravery. It tests whether the car and driver believe in each other. If the car moves underneath the driver at the wrong moment, the driver cannot fully commit. And if the driver cannot commit, the stopwatch exposes it. Hamilton's lap forces every team to compare its own relationship between car and driver. That is why the panic is not dramatic from the outside. No one needs to shout. No one needs to slam a desk. In Formula 1, panic often looks like quiet people staring at screens longer than usual. It looks like engineers rechecking numbers they thought they trusted. It looks like strategy groups suddenly preparing for scenarios they did not expect to matter. And this is where the reactions from teams, drivers, and insiders become important. Not because someone needs to publicly say they are afraid. They never will. Formula 1 teams do not hand their rivals emotional evidence. Drivers do not walk into a microphone and say, "Hamilton has rattled us." Engineers do not announce that their model may be wrong. Everyone stays controlled. Everyone speaks in careful language. Everyone talks about learning, execution, and opportunities. But the real reaction is in the behavior. If teams start preparing for Hamilton as a race leader, that tells you everything. If drivers become more aggressive at the start, it means they know waiting could be dangerous. If strategists begin thinking about how to cover him instead of simply running their own plan, it means Hamilton has entered the center of the weekend. And that is the shift. Before sprint pole, Hamilton may have been one threat among several. After sprint pole, he becomes the reference point. Everyone else has to measure themselves against him. This is where the pressure on the drivers behind him becomes personal. Because chasing Hamilton at Silverstone is not like chasing a random car. It carries weight. The crowd is louder. The cameras are sharper. The mistake feels bigger. And the driver behind knows that if he hesitates, Hamilton will read it instantly. That kind of pressure changes decisions. A driver may tell himself he will be patient, but patience feels different when the leader is building rhythm. A driver may plan to save tires, but saving tires feels harder when the car in front is just within reach. A driver may know the sensible move is to wait, but waiting feels dangerous when every lap makes Hamilton more comfortable. And this is the emotional trap. Hamilton makes rivals choose between discipline and urgency. Discipline says, stay calm. Urgency says, do something now. The wrong choice can ruin the sprint. The even worse choice is making the right decision too late. That is why insiders would look beyond the starting position. They would look at body language, tire behavior, how calm the car looked, whether Hamilton seemed to be forcing the lap or flowing with it. Because when a driver looks relaxed while going fast, that is often more frightening than when he looks desperate. Desperation can fade. Control can last. And Hamilton's greatest threat has always been control. Not just speed. Not just experience. Control of the moment. Control of the pressure. Control of the way a race develops around him. This is why teams cannot treat his sprint pole as an isolated surprise. If they do, they risk missing the larger message. The larger message is that Hamilton may have created a weekend where everyone else has to respond to his rhythm. And once that happens, the race becomes mentally exhausting for the grid. The chasing drivers have to manage more than tires. They have to manage frustration. They have to judge when to attack without becoming reckless. They have to listen to the pit wall while their instincts are screaming for action. They have to believe the opportunity will come, even as the laps disappear. That is not easy. Especially at Silverstone. Because Silverstone rewards commitment, but punishes impatience. It invites attacks, but it does not forgive sloppy ones. It gives drivers chances, but only if the car is ready, the tires are ready, and the move is timed with precision.